I never imagined life would turn out like this. At 35, I was already a widow. My husband, Brandon, passed away suddenly after a heart attack on a late spring morning. One minute we were sipping coffee in our sunlit kitchen, talking about our weekend plans, and the next, he was gone. Just like that. Everything stopped. The house became silent. And empty. Except for one presence. His son, my stepson, Mason. Mason was 22 when Brandon died. He was always polite with me, respectful, distant in a way that wasn't cold but cautious. We'd never gotten too close during Brandon's lifetime. He lived with his mom until college, only visiting during holidays. But after the funeral, he asked to stay for a while. Told him yes. I didn't want to be alone either. The first few weeks after Brandon's passing were hazy. Grief has a way of clouding everything. Mason took over most things. The errands, the groceries, even walking the dog. He was patient with my silence and firm with his presence. I didn't know how much I needed that until I had it. Then something happened. It was late one night, a warm June evening. I couldn't sleep, so I padded downstairs barefoot, wearing only one of Brandon's old shirts. Hung on me like a ghost. I didn't expect anyone else to be up, but when I entered the living room, I saw Mason. He was on the couch, shirtless, earbuds in, his head leaned back. The light from the television flickered across his body, highlighting the sharp curve of his jaw, the smooth strength in his shoulders. Pause. He didn't see me at first. I stood there, frozen, unsure why I suddenly couldn't breathe right. When he finally opened his eyes, I saw something in them. Something I wasn't ready for. Something I hadn't seen in years. He pulled his earbuds out slowly. Can't sleep. I shook my head. You want to sit? He asked. I hesitated, but I did. We sat without speaking, the air dense with silence. I could hear my heart beating louder than the TV. I don't know why I turned my head to look at him again. But I did. And he was already looking at me. I miss him, I whispered. He nodded. Me too. Something in the way he said it made my eyes sting. Then he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. That simple touch burned through me. His fingers lingered at my jawline for a second too long, and I didn't pull away. Couldn't. That was the first night I started noticing him in ways I shouldn't have. The days that followed blurred with strange moments. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. How he'd rest his hand on the small of my back a beat too long. Or how I caught myself watching him come out of the shower once, droplets tracing down his chest before he disappeared behind the door. I felt like a sinner in my own home. But the moment that changed everything came unexpectedly. It was July, sweltering and still. I was in the kitchen, wearing a sundress I hadn't dared wear since Brandon passed. It clung to me in places I forgot could feel alive again. Mason walked in, damp from the heat, a tank top sticking to his chest. You look beautiful, he said, not even hesitating. Turned startled. What? I said you look beautiful, he repeated. His voice deeper than I remembered. You should wear that more. I stared at him, heart thundering. Mason. I know, he said, stepping closer. I know it's wrong to say it. But I can't stop thinking about you. The room spun slightly. You're I'm not your son, he interrupted, eyes searching mine. I never was. And we're not related. But you're everything. You always were. Even when I tried not to notice. I wanted to push him away. But I didn't. Instead I whispered, this isn't what Brandon would have wanted. I don't know what he'd want, he said, his hand grazing mine. But I know what you need. And I see you. All of you. No one had said that to me in years. Not even Brandon in his final days. I realized how long I'd been starving. For attention, for touch, for someone to notice that I was still a woman. From that day, things between us simmered. We danced around the tension like it was a live wire, brushing against it just enough to feel the thrill but never quite daring to touch it completely. Until the night we did. Started with music. Mason had come home from a run, sweaty and flushed. I had a record playing, one of Brandon's old jazz albums. Mason said he loved it. We stood in the middle of the living room, swaying. I laughed when he pulled me close, teasing. But then his hand slid around my waist and stayed there. "You're glowing tonight," he whispered. Maybe it was the wine, or the music, or maybe I was just tired of pretending. But I leaned into him. My fingers curled at his shoulder, and I didn't pull away when his lips brushed my neck. He kissed me like a secret, slow and hesitant, tasting like summer heat and stolen moments. And I let him. Nothing happened that night. Nothing we could be blamed for. Just a kiss. A lingering one that melted into hours of just lying beside each other, fully clothed, whispering things we'd never said out loud. About grief. About longing. About wanting to feel again. The next morning we didn't speak about it. But we didn't stop either. For weeks we lived in that delicious gray zone, never crossing the line but never quite retreating. Mason was gentle, thoughtful, playful in ways that lit up places inside me that had gone dark. He started cooking breakfast shirtless, on purpose, watching my reaction. I'd catch him watching me dress, his gaze heavy. We never said a word. But our silences were louder than screams. And then, it happened. One stormy night the power went out. The house was lit only by candles. I was already in bed when he knocked softly on my door. "You okay?" he asked. He nodded. He lingered. "Can I just stay here a while? It's weird being alone in the dark." Smiled. "Sure." He climbed into the bed fully clothed, lying beside me like it was the most natural thing in the world. The rain outside drummed steadily. I felt his hand graze mine under the covers. Then his fingers laced through mine. Slowly, tenderly, he turned to me. His face was barely visible in the dim light. "I don't want to pretend anymore," he said. Neither did I. What happened next was soft and wordless. His hands explored the edges of my grief, peeling back my fears. His lips found mine again, but this time they didn't leave. The way he held me wasn't rushed, it was reverent, as if I was something sacred. We stayed like that all night, tangled, wrapped, breathless but whole. There was no guilt, just release, just need, just us. The next morning I thought I'd feel ashamed. But I didn't. Instead I made coffee while wearing one of his shirts. He kissed the back of my neck like it was routine. And suddenly, I felt something I hadn't in years. Life. Mason eventually moved out, got his own place, but we stayed close. No one knew what happened that summer. No one needed to. It was ours. Now, 2 years later, I still think about it. That summer changed me. It reminded me that even in loss, there's room for beauty. That desire doesn't die with age or tragedy. And sometimes love doesn't come wrapped in neat little boxes. It sneaks up on you when you least expect it. I'll never forget what I saw that night in my living room. I saw Mason. But more importantly, I saw myself again.